Hey there, thanks for joining me. So, what the hell is going on today? That wasn't a question. What the hell is going on today? That's right, it's my monthly roundup of what am I buying, what am I collecting, what am I reading. So, if you want to see what I picked up in January 2025, stick around. I'm Mark, and this is Comic Book Revival. Welcome back. Let's get started with a couple books from Oni Press. First up, we have a brand new anthology series from the folks that resurrected the EC Comics name. This time, they're foraging into the fantasy realm with Cruel Kingdom #1. This book has a promising start. It blends sword and sorcery with some sci-fi elements. I have to admit I wasn't expecting to see aliens and robots in this comic, but we'll see where it goes. I also picked up Epitaphs from the Abyss #6, and this gives us more of what we've come to expect from this horror title. I picked up the 1 in 10 ratio variant because I just couldn't resist the Jack Davis Tales from the Crypt homage cover. And if you've been following my channel for a while, and you feel like maybe you've seen this cover before, you probably have. It was referenced as recently as a couple of months ago in Mark Spear's Monsters #2, which I picked up back in October, I believe. And I also have the original cover in my collection from Crypt of Terror #1, which is a reprint of Tales from the Crypt 46. Yeah, got all that? Good. Okay, let's talk about Minor Arcana. Issue 5 just came out, and this is one of the biggest surprises for me over the past several months. I love this book. The story is unique and engaging, and the characters and their relationships with each other have depth and complexity. And I know I've mentioned the artwork before, but I'm going to keep talking about it because it's unlike anything I've ever seen in a comic book before. Every panel is like a watercolor painting. It lends itself really well to the ethereal, dreamy vibe that the story gives. Jeff Lemire knocks it out of the park with this one in every issue. In fact, I love this comic so much, I'm going to stop buying it. This will be my last single issue because I want the deluxe hardcovers when the collected editions start to roll out. And I hate double dipping, so no more single issues for this title. I'm going to discipline myself and torture myself if I have to, but I'm going to wait. Boom Studios always does an amazing job with the quality and presentation of their hardcover collected editions, so I'm just looking forward to seeing this series on my bookshelf. On to this month's Facsimile editions. We have a couple of classic comics from DC. First up, it's DC Comics Presents #26. This was originally published in July 1980. This issue is significant for being the first appearance of the new Teen Titans. The team consists of Robin, Beast Boy, who now goes by Changeling, starting in this issue, and they're joined by Wonder Girl, Kid Flash, and some new members, Starfire, Raven, and Cyborg. The story from this issue continues in New Teen Titans #1, which came out a few months later in November 1980. Next up, also from DC, is The Brave and the Bold #29. Originally published in May 1960, this issue marks the second appearance of the Justice League as a team. Their first appearance was in the previous month's issue, The Brave and the Bold #28. This issue is also memorable for their encounter with Starro, the giant mind-controlling alien starfish. You might remember seeing Starro in James Gunn's Suicide Squad from a few years back. This is a pretty cool story. They battle against someone called the Weapons Master, who has time traveled from the distant future in order to fulfill a prophecy that he believed he would defeat the Justice League. I like the fact that each member of the Justice League kind of gets their own moment to do their own thing and use their own unique strengths in a way that helps out the team. I'm a little disappointed that Superman and Batman don't show up until the end of the story though, so that feels kind of cheap, like they just shoehorned it in. But other than that, it's actually a fun read for an early Silver Age comic. Let's be honest, sometimes the Silver Age stuff can be kind of hard to get through. Only one book from Distillery Media this month, but man, is it a good one. This book has been another very pleasant surprise for me. I picked up the first issue totally on a whim, and I'm so glad I did. And the series I'm talking about is Life. This is number 4 of a 6-issue miniseries, and it just gets better with each issue. I really like that Distillery is changing the game with their comics. They're oversized and bold and don't tend to follow the conventional rules of comics or storytelling. I can't recommend this one highly enough. Go get it, honestly. In fact, you might want to wait now for the collected edition at this point, only because the series is almost done. But definitely, at some point, you gotta read this. I just realized I didn't pick up anything from Marvel last month, and that's extremely rare for me. But it's also a sign that I'm branching out and trying things on from different publishers, and I think you should too. There's so much more out there than Marvel and DC, and there's so much more out there than just superhero stuff. Wrapping things up, I have a few collected editions to talk about. From DC Comics, 2 more volumes from their DC Finest imprint. Aquaman, the King of Atlantis, and Supergirl, the Girl of Steel. Now, these are 2 characters that I have not read much. I wanted to get these books, though, because this series, DC Finest, promises to ease new readers into the worlds of these characters and their stories without feeling lost or confused. I'm going to hold them to that promise. I'm going to read these and just see how well I comprehend everything that's going on. Now, these Aquaman stories are from the years 1957 to 1962, and I've read some of the early Silver Age Aquaman, and honestly, the stories are pretty good. Aquaman gets kind of a bad rap for being a lame superhero or whatever, but his Silver Age stuff is actually pretty fun to read. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking this out and getting a proper introduction to the character, his world, and some of those early stories. Supergirl is another character that I've only read a little bit here and there. And just recently, I read the amazing series from Tom King. We'll talk a little more about him in a few minutes. But the Supergirl story is called Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And this is a great book. It's also the source material for the upcoming Supergirl film, which will be coming out next year. Definitely read this if you haven't already. But getting back to this book, these Supergirl stories are also much older. We're going back to the late 50s and the early 60s, the same era as the Aquaman book. I'm hoping that this acts as a proper introduction to the character and her world. Finally, I saved the best for last, as always. This is a book that's been on my radar for a while, but I never got around to picking up. And when I read comic book reviews online, or if I watch other comic book YouTube channels, this book consistently comes up on collectors' top 5 lists, top 10 lists, must-read lists. A lot of people love this book to death, so I had to check it out for myself. And when I saw that there was an absolute edition coming out, it seemed like a no-brainer that was the version to buy. And I'm talking about the absolute edition of Mr. Miracle by Tom King. An absolute edition is an oversized hardcover, a prestige format, if you will. And you can see when I compare it to a standard omnibus, it's considerably taller and wider. And this oversized trim size helps showcase the art and just give the overall presentation of the book a bigger feel. And this is my first absolute edition of any book, and I can see why collectors love them so much. This one comes in a cool die-cut slipcase, which was a nice touch, I thought. The quality of the materials and the care in putting this together are quite impressive. I haven't read it yet. I was hoping to do so before making this video, but I just got it a couple of days ago. I think it came out on January 28th. So I just haven't had a chance to sit with it yet. But my first impression of this book, without having actually read it, is that it's very good. So who is Mr. Miracle and what is this story about? Mr. Miracle, at least in this modern incarnation of the character, is scot-free, an alien from the planet New Genesis, and he's a master escape artist. He also has a complex and tragic history. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this. It's a multiple award-winning comic series, and Tom King, I mentioned him earlier when I was talking about Supergirl, he wrote this as well. He is incredibly talented and one of the most acclaimed writers of his generation. He could be writing best-selling novels or award-winning screenplays, but he chose comics, and we all get to benefit from that. He writes stories with heart, and his characters are complex and nuanced. He really gets into their psyche and makes even the most powerful superhero feel totally relatable. So I'm super excited to add this to my collection. What are you reading right now? What do you think of my choices? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Well, this video may be over, but that doesn't mean the fun has to stop here. Hit me up at Instagram at oldmanyoung. That's oldmanyoung with a big fat 0, not an O. Someone else took the O before I got there. Not that I'm bitter about it or anything. And please remember to share, like, and subscribe. It's free and it's good for you. And just for fun, why not Hulk smash that notification bell? If nothing else, it's good rage therapy during these cold winter months. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for the continued support of my channel. Until next time, stay safe and read some comics.